Folks, taking a look at yesterday's assignment, we did have 8.1 and 8.2 to do yesterday. 8.1 was our introduction to the types of chemical reactions. We saw yesterday there are many types of reactions. The type of reaction is classified based on what is happening. What kind of reaction start with one reactant and it breaks up into two or more different products? That would be a what? Decomposition. Decomposition reaction. Outstanding. What is it if we have two or more reactants and they join together to form a single compound, a single type of, that would be a synthesis. It's also called direct combination, sometimes called combination. What's it called where we have a compound and an element? And one of the element ends up replacing one of the elements in a compound, and we result with a different compound and another element that's been released initial compound. In other words, compound plus element makes a new compound and an element because the element replaced something in the compound. That would be called a very good single replacement, also called single displacement reaction. What's it called when we have two compounds? Maybe something like this. We start with two compounds. Compound one, we'll just say is like AB. And we put it together with compound two, which we'll just label CD. And when we're done, we have A joining up with D, and we have C joining up with B. That didn't write very well. We end up with A joining up with D and C joining up with B. In other words, the first thing in this one ends up with the second thing in that one. And the first one in this one ends up with the second thing in that one. That would be called double replacement, double displacement, sometimes called net ion exchange. What's it called where we start with a hydrocarbon? Carbon with hydrogen. Sometimes oxygen is on there as well. But carbon is with the hydrogen, and we burn it in the presence of oxygen to make carbon dioxide. This thing is not writing well today. And water. Look at this thing. It's writing crazy today. That's called a what, please? Combustion. Outstanding. You guys are doing a phenomenal job here. Oh, yeah. Then we have another type of reaction, which is actually a double displacement in disguise. A net ion exchange in disguise. That's what it really is. But in this one, we would start with hydrogen. And I'm writing A here. A is symbolizing hydrogen is with an acid. Hydrogen's on the acid. Acids are compounds that have hydrogen, and that hydrogen has the possibility of doing what? Splitting off. The hydrogen ion can split off. So we start off with hydrogen, acidic hydrogen, and we put it with something that usually has a metal and something like the hydroxide ion or a base. And when we're done, the hydrogen gets kicked off and joins the hydroxide ion or base, and we make water. And then the metal ends up with this nonmetal forming a salt. That's a salt, a metal and a nonmetal. Do you see why I say this is a net ion exchange? Remember the net ion exchange, the double displacement or double replacement. The first thing here joins with the second thing there, yes? That's really what's happening. An H plus breaks off, it joins with an OH to make an H2O. Then the metal, the positive metal ion that was with the hydroxide ion, OH is the hydroxide ion, one of our polyatomic ions. Bases accept the hydrogen ion, we make water. The metal here ends up with the non-metal there, a positive metal with a negative nonmetal is what we call a salt. That's called a what? We have an acid, HA, and the base, OH. That would be called a what? Anybody, take a stab at it. Think back to yesterday. We had a whole video on this reaction alone in 8-1. An entire video dedicated to this. The name is really not difficult. It is a double displacement. First thing joined to a second thing. First thing joined to the second thing. Is that an acid? Hydrogen on something where it can break off. Yes. Is that a base? Such as the hydroxide ion. This one would be called thank you. Acid-base neutralization reaction. It's a double displacement reaction in disguise. What's been neutralized? We no longer have the acid. We no longer have the base. We ended up with water, H2O, and a salt. The last kind of reaction is a category which can actually encompass more than one of these first 6 types that we've looked at. And it's called an oxidation reduction reaction. Oxidation reduction reactions involve changes in oxidation numbers, which are essentially charges because electrons are being transferred or control of electrons are being transferred. That is the 7th type of reaction, and it is often more than one type. When we're talking about an oxidation reduction reaction, before I erase, did you have a question on something on here?
No, I'm just wondering where that sound is coming from.
That is our heating system.
Okay.
Thank you. It's a weird noise indeed. Oxidation reduction reaction. What happens here? The charges or apparent charges of something change. So let's say we have a reaction something like this. Let's look at one like this. Let's say we have, this could actually be considered, well, let's not do this one. Oh, this thing's not allowing me to write very well. Let's say, for instance, we have something like I'll tell you what, we may wait and talk about oxidation reduction reactions after we go over, again, oxidation numbers. So we're going to hold off on that. Yes?
I think there's something in the center of the whiteboard that is causing the issue. Because when you pressed on the blue pen, it started drawing in the center. When you pressed on the blue pen to start writing, it started writing in the right center.
We've been dealing with issues on this for quite some time. They've actually had the people come in with this thing and they're looking at it, and this thing just kind of is really whacked out. They don't know if it's a sensitivity issue or quite what it is when the guys have come in to look at it. But this thing all of a sudden just stops working as it is now. We're going to hold off and get into oxidation reduction reactions in a bit. Last night we also did 8-2, yes? And in 8-2, we actually saw demonstrations of these things, of these types of reactions. Today, we're going to move on to 8-3, which is going to introduce how to balance these reactions, and 8-4. I want to remind you, we are now finished with Unit 7. If you are missing assignments from Unit 7, they need to be submitted by Thursday morning, 7 a.m. You might want to make a note of that. If you are missing assignments from Unit 7, you have till Thursday morning to get those in 7 a.m. Do not ask for extensions. This is our first unit. You do not need an extension. You've already been given an extension. Thursday morning, 7 a.m. So if there's no new assignments for Wednesday. We have 8-3-8-4 for today. So no assignments tomorrow to give you a chance to catch up. Get those in. I will send out an email reminding you, 7 a.m. Do not say, Mr. Hippemeyer, can I have an extension because this, that, or the other thing? Yeah, the extension is Thursday morning, 7 a.m. Sound good? Let's go ahead and get rolling on 8-3-8-4. We are now going to learn how to balance these reactions.